Why do artists struggle to take a compliment? What does being humble mean? How can we welcome positive recognition? What actions can we take to start building healthy reactions to positive feedback? That's what we're talking about today. We're going to answer to all those questions related to our struggle to welcome positive feedback towards our art. Hi, my name is Veronica, aka Vespertiliu. I am an Italian comic book author, tarot and oracle deck creator, and your spooky art teacher.
It's me again, yours truly.
This video is divided into chapters. You'll find the complete timeline with each chapter in the description below and in the first pinned comment. But before we start, this video is sponsored by me. If you like my art, content and videos, you might be interested in going a bit more under the surface. That's what inspired me to create my very first newsletter. There you'll find weekly insights on what inspires me, books I'm reading, podcasts I'm listening to, book recommendations, and more information regarding the topics discussed in my videos. Plus, you'll get access to the sketchbook flip-through, an interactive digital version of my current sketchbook, updated with each week's new pages. The subscription to the newsletter is completely free. After entering your email, just select the no pledge option. Get the latest on art, inspiration and education from your spooky art teacher by joining at the link in the description below. With that said, let's get to the video. Let's start with why do artists struggle to take a compliment? There could be multiple reasons why artists struggle to welcome compliments. Most of the time, it is linked to imposter syndrome. In short, imposter syndrome refers to the feeling of being unworthy of success. Imposter syndrome refers to the feeling of being unworthy of success. This leads to being afraid of being found as a fraud, even though we are actually skilled and rightfully accomplished. First, we'll be breaking down 3 scenarios linked to the imposter syndrome. Number 1, we are unable to trust compliments as sincere. Number 2, we are afraid to look arrogant and lack humility. Number 3, we feel the need for other people to try make us change our minds. Of course, those are not the only scenarios one might encounter or live in, just the ones I felt the need to discuss regarding this subject. Scenario number 1. I've touched on this in my previous video, but let me reiterate here. Many times we feel dissatisfied with our art even though others seem to like it and appreciate it. Why does this happen? As mentioned before, it is often linked to past trauma or past negative events. A person you admired heavily criticized your work and you now think others' opinions are not valuable. Someone who complimented your work turned out to be a horrible person who said nice things to you just to get what they wanted, and now you don't trust any positive recognition. Another example could be being told by everyone that your art was great during your childhood, and then at some point have an authoritarian figure like a parent, a teacher, a boss or a publisher crushing your work. And now you think that what non-authoritarian people say is just wrong, are just lies, or comes from personal reasons like friendship or parental love, and therefore it's not valuable. Those are just some reasons why we might think we are being impartial, just and professional by putting down our work, but the truth is, we are acting as affected by our past trauma. Something we can do to fight such lack of confidence is to look for the root of the problem, finding in our past those traumas. Write down on paper every time someone made you doubt your art. Make a list of such things. And I can tell you from personal experience that if you went through that third example, there's a good chance those authoritarian figures who crushed your work were wrong. These past events are preventing you from welcoming compliments and positive feedback about your art. You need to acknowledge them and address them. Tell yourself, the past is past. Nothing is stopping you from setting healthy boundaries now. You can learn to welcome criticism by checking on those 2 criteria. Does it point out your mistakes specifically? Does it offer a cue, a new point of view or solution? If a critique does not meet those criteria, then it's not worth listening to. Move on. At the same time, you can learn to welcome positive feedback without starting to idolize or idealize the person who gave you one. Scenario number 2 is also linked to trauma. If every time we've been proud of our art, we've been met by people telling us we were not humble, then of course we'll never be able to take a compliment again. This experience is valid also when it's not directly ours. Maybe you saw or listened to a conversation where a person was called as arrogant because they were just being confident, and you internalize that need to not become like that person. If you've got or have heard such comment from your parents or a relative or a person you looked up to, then the damage is even bigger. We hide behind our idea of being humble to justify our being excessively self-critical. We must understand that there's a difference between being confident and being arrogant. We're going to look at those differences later on. Scenario number 3. By refusing compliments, we enter into a cycle where we strive to meet people who will give us more and more compliments the more we tell them they are wrong about our work being good. We relate the act of refusing a compliment to the dopamine rush we have when people try their best to make us believe our art is good despite us telling them it's not. The more we tell them it's not true, the more they'll strive to tell us yes it is. And most of the time, this is not a conscious strategy, of course. It's a built-in toxic behavior, and it's bad from and for both sides. Because, and I'm being very harsh on this, we'll be building in ourselves the need for people to pity us. And we will also attract the kind of people that will look for our lack of self-worth to feel needed. There are 2 possible outcomes for such a scenario. Number 1, the moment you'll feel confident enough to say your art is in fact good, those people will hurt, will feel like they are no longer needed, and will most likely tell you you have become arrogant, selfish, lack humility, and just try to put you back in that state where you will need them back in your life to pity you and give you that dopamine rush, and therefore they'll feel needed again. Number 2, someone who's been genuinely complimenting you at some point realizes you still have not acknowledged your worth, and therefore they might just give up and feel like, okay, I've done my best. If they still think their work is not good, I can't do anything about it. Your heart will break. You'll feel betrayed and entitled to keep thinking you are worthless as an artist, because there you go. You have proof. They used to compliment you and want to make you change your mind, and now they bailed on you. Guess what? It's not their fault. It's not your art's fault, nor your level skills' fault. You've done this to yourself. And I've been on both sides of such a scenario. I've been rightfully dumped by people sick of my toxic behavior and tried to be crushed by people who did not take well my gain of self-esteem. So, what does being humble mean? This is one of the craziest things I've only realized this year. When we think of the word humble and refer it to somebody, we often use it positively, meaning that person is not arrogant despite their being excellent in their craft, which is already a wrong concept, but let's move on. I was watching a video by a creator I really like, and she said something about humility and being humble, and I had to check myself. The word humble as an adjective means not proud or arrogant, modest. It also means having a feeling of insignificance, inferiority, subservience, low in rank, importance, status, quality, low in height, level, small in size. As a verb, it means to lower in condition, importance, or dignity, to destroy the independence, power, or will of, to make meek. I did not make this up, it's from the dictionary. Check yourself. The majority of the meanings associated with the word humble are extremely negative. But society, culture, and religion told us that humility and modesty are the right path to becoming an acceptable person. Now let's check what being arrogant means. The word arrogant is an adjective meaning making claims or pretensions to superior importance or rights, overbearingly assuming, insolently proud, characterized by or proceeding from arrogance, or a sense of superiority, self-importance, or entitlement. Now, do you really think that all those things reside in the act of saying thank you to a compliment? Let's check for alternative words. Instead of humble, let's look for kind. Instead of arrogant, let's look for confident. Kind, of good or benevolent nature or disposition. Having, showing, or proceeding from benevolence. Indulgent, considerate, or helpful. Confident, having strong belief or full assurance. Sure of oneself, having no uncertainty about one's own abilities, correctness, or successfulness. Positive, certain. I strongly believe that instead of being humble and fear arrogance, we should just start to be kind and confident, don't you think? Therefore, how can we welcome positive recognition? Let's make one thing clear. It's okay to not feel ready to be confident about your art. And it's great to be willing to study and improve. Sometimes we might even hate our art. And my last video was about how to start loving it. So if you feel the need for a cue on this subject, I recommend checking that out. With that said, having been a teen who would feed on that dopamine rush from people trying to make me change my mind from my art being bad to being good and all that circus, I now am the kind of person who does not complain to strangers. I might not like a particular work of mine or not being satisfied with a work I'm creating, but if I receive a positive comment, I always welcome it with gratitude and kindness. Since we were little, we've been educated to politeness, and one of the very first things we were taught were to say please and thank you. Now as adults, we are afraid to say thank you when we receive a compliment, whether it's about ourselves or our art. There is nothing wrong in saying thank you to positive feedback. It's not arrogant, it's just polite. But let's make an example here. One time, a person complimented my work, and I said, "Thank you, I'm glad you liked it." Even though I was not sure about my level of skills at that time, I just wanted to be polite. Well, that person got offended. They were like, "You should be more humble, you're not that good." This is exactly the kind of behavior you find in people who need to be needed. They complimented me, expecting me to put myself down, so that they could engage with me in that toxic exchange. When their expectation was not met, it showed up. Avoid those kind of people. If you can't avoid them, just ignore what they say. Now, as mentioned in the first chapter, we still need to set healthy boundaries. Being kind and confident does not mean people are entitled to receive the whole package from us. We can be kind and helpful and still have the right to be unavailable. We can be grateful without being in debt with the people who complimented or encouraged us. We can welcome a compliment without idolizing or idealizing the person who gave us that positive feedback. It's crucial to understand the importance of boundaries. Lastly, what actions can we take to start building healthy reactions to positive feedback? I'm now going to give you some actual examples of ways to address a compliment. Like all things, the key to building a new mindset and healthy habit is practice. You might feel stupid or fake at first, but trust me, you start engaging in genuine positive conversations, and that will also contribute to strengthening your self-esteem as a person and as an artist. Let's start with the basics. How to reply to a compliment. Most of the time, it's enough a simple and genuine thank you. If you feel the need to express your gratitude with more words, you can say, "Thank you very much." "Thank you, I'm glad you liked it." "Thank you, I'm glad it was helpful." "Thank you, this means a lot." "Thank you, I appreciate it." I advise you to choose your answer as genuinely as possible, so that you'll start actively implementing this new mindset. If you're at a point in your art journey where you're struggling to appreciate your art and therefore being grateful feels wrong, just say thank you. It might not come from gratitude, but it will still be polite. When your answer is not verbal but written in a comment section or in direct messages, then you can also use emojis. I'm often in a rush and sometimes I answer comments while doing something else, so I would alternate messages of gratitude with positive emojis. My trademark ones are the little bat and the heart. It's a simpler, quicker, but still nice way to be polite and acknowledge positive feedback. Now, let's get back to the example in the previous chapter. Let's say you receive a compliment on your art and you reply with thank you, and the other person gets offended and calls you arrogant. What to do? Here's what I would recommend. "Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. I've been raised to be polite and reply thank you when complimented. Can I ask you what you expected me to say? Now, there are 1,000 different ways they could reply to you. If the miracle happens, they will apologize. And you can just say, it's okay, thank you again for your compliment, have a nice day. But if they don't, you might want to end the conversation with, I'm sorry you didn't get the reply you expected, but thank you again for your compliment. Have a nice day. Note: if someone gets excessively aggressive and you can find a way out, just play their game. Your safety is far more important than your pride. I want to help you become a confident artist, and I encourage you to do that, but please stay safe. There's a lot of bad, dangerous people out there, okay? It's sad but true for every environment, including the art community. Always be kind to others, but especially to yourself. And that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, I really hope this was helpful. If you have any suggestions or requests for future videos, please feel free to leave them in a comment below. If you wish to support this channel, you can now join Creatures of the Night or check my shops. My very first tarot deck, Vespertiliu, is now available for purchase and you can get it at the link down below. Make sure to check my newsletter, and if you want, join me and the But Art community every Sunday in your mailbox. I will see you very soon with more art videos. In the meantime, let's make art. Bye!